Hello, this is Jonathan Wood from Soft Circuits. In this video, I'll be discussing the Restart Manager, which can help your application recover unsaved documents. When you write an MFC application that edits documents, you know how important it is to make sure that the user has a chance to save those documents when the application terminates. But what happens when the application terminates unexpectedly due to a system crash or other event that prevents the application from shutting down properly? In Visual Studio 2010, the CWinApp class has been enhanced with a Restart Manager that will help your users recover any unsaved data in the case of your application's premature shutdown. It accomplishes this by periodically saving the current document to a temporary file, which you can then read back when the program restarts after being unexpectedly shut down. Note that this functionality is available only on Windows Vista and later, and that it is only supported on applications that use the MFC document classes. So let me create a new project, and it's an MFC application, and I'm going to call it Restart Manager. And we'll make it a single document. We're going to make sure it has a document view architecture support so that we have the documents class in place for our Restart Manager. We'll use the Office project style. I'm going to make my extension DOT because we'll make an application that creates dots, and our data file will have the DOT extension. And we're going to use a ribbon. And then on the advanced features, we have options to control the Restart Manager support. We have several options, in fact, for selecting what type of Restart Manager support our application will implement. If we only select the first option, Support Restart Manager, the application can be restarted after a crash, but there is no attempt to reopen or recover documents. If we also select Reopen Previously Open Documents, our application can attempt to reopen previously opened documents after a crash, but it does not try to recover any unsaved documents. And finally, if we also select Support Application Recovery, so that all three options are checked, our application will also implement autosave as I described previously, and will attempt to recover any unsaved documents after a crash. For our example, we'll select all three options, and note that it's very easy to change this option after your application has been created, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'll click Finish to complete the creation of our project. And as I suggested before, in order for the Restart Manager to work, you have to implement documents, which is easy since I selected the document view architecture when I created the project. However, I still need to implement code to edit, save, and load documents. So I'll make a simple application that creates dots wherever I click the mouse. These dots will be stored in a point array, which will be written to our documents. So let's start by going to our document class. We want to go to the header, and we'll make a public method. We'll use the CArray collection, and it'll be an array of points, which will be the locations that we click with the mouse. We'll call it an m_points. Next we'll go to our view class, and we will implement the drawing of those points. And the MFC has already created our onDraw method. We just need to fill it out. And IntelliSense is telling me I made a mistake. Each item in the array will be a C point, not C points. And so back to the onDraw in our view class, we will need the device context pointer. So I'll uncomment that. And so all we're going to do is draw a circle for each of those items in each point in our array. So we'll just go simple loop, I equals 0, I is less than pdoc m points get count, and increment I. And then on the device context pointer, we'll call the ellipse method. And we're just going to, we'll just use the default colors and settings on the device context. So we want doc m points I dot x. Let me copy that, save some time. X minus 5, y minus 5, x plus 5, and y plus 5. And I think that's it. And then the next thing we need is when we need to detect the mouse click. So we can go to Class Wizard and we'll select our view, and we want a message is the left button down, and add handler, and go to the code. So remember, all we need to do is add the current point to that array that we created. So we need the document. So C restart manager doc. And then let me move the call to the base class up top. Once we have a document, we can reference the point array and do an add, and we're passed a point argument to our on L button down method, and we'll just pass that. We also need to set the modified flag the document as modified. Call set modified flag. That way it's flagged as needing to be saved. And finally, we'll call update all views, which causes the view to be redrawn, and if we have multiple views, those will also be redrawn. We'll pass null since we're not doing any special handling for our view. We want all of them to be updated. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is implement our document handling, and on a new document we need to on a single document interface, the same document class instance gets reused, so we need to clear our points out. So we'll just call points remove all, and then finally on serialize we need to write our array to or from our document. So writing it to the document, we just say we can write the number of items in the array, and then write each item. Now there is a trick to writing an array to a document in a single statement, but I'm just doing this down and dirty to try to get this working as fast as possible. And then we have the counterpart where we're reading them back in. Declare a couple of variables. We'll read in the count, and then another loop. And for each time through the loop, we'll read in the point, and we'll add it to our point array. And I think that's about it. Let's go ahead and test that. Got a couple errors. Points, it's capitalized. I failed to do that. Let's see if that's everything. No. Okay, so here's our document. Now every time we click in the document, we get a little circle. If we resize the window, they get redrawn. And if we exit the program, we're offered a chance to save it, which I'll do. And if I run the program again, I can open the file and our dots are restored. So now that our application fully supports saving and loading documents, we need a way to crash the application to test the Restart Manager. This isn't hard to do. We'll simply write to a null address. So let me bring up the ribbon bar designer, and for the cut, let's change that a little to crash, and add an event handler to that, and we'll put it in our view. And so all I'm going to do is we'll take a 0, an address of 0, we'll typecast it to a pointer to an integer, and then we will dereference that pointer and we'll assign it a value. It doesn't matter, we'll assign it 0. And if you're not familiar with pointers that well, we're simply writing to address 0. Not only is this not allowed in a Windows application, but it's a common error to use pointers that are either uninitialized or they're returned from a function that failed and we use them anyway, so they are well tested for. Let's test that to see if we got everything right so far. So we can load our previous one, and if I click crash, we do get an exception, and in the IDE under the debugger it takes us to the line that caused the exception. That's a great feature, but that's not going to help us here because we need to have the program crash and not recover. So let's stop the application. So since the Visual Studio Debugger will intercept any exceptions, such as the one caused when we write to a null address, we'll need to test this application outside of the IDE. But first I want to make a change to the autosave interval. So let's go to our application classes constructor. And this is the line we're interested in. I want to show you where the Restart Manager support is specified. Here you can see the m_dw Restart Manager support flags set to AFX Restart Manager support all aspects. This is based on the options we selected when we created this project, and this is the line you would change if you wanted to change Restart Manager support in your application. Another option we have is the autosave interval. remember that in order to be able to recover unsaved data, those documents must periodically be saved to a temporary file so that data can be recovered. And note that this means if your application crashes and the current document is recovered, it can only be recovered to where it was during the last autosave. By default, autosave occurs every 5 minutes, which is a pretty good value. But I'm going to reduce this to 30 seconds so that I don't need to wait 5 minutes to demonstrate this. So we can write directly to m_n auto save interval, and I'll set to 15,000, which is a millisecond, so that's equal to 15 seconds. I should also point out, again, this is in the constructor of the application class. This is really early in the life of the application. In order for this to work, you need to call the base class in the init instant method, as we are here, and that reads those variables that we set and makes them, implements them, I should say. Alright, well, I'm going to build this solution. And then we're going to test it outside of the IDE. Okay, so here we are in Windows Explorer, and we can go to our folder that contains our project, and we go to the debug folder. This was a debug build. We can run the application directly from here. And we can add some dots. And I'm going to add 4 columns of dots. And then a row of dots. And then within 15 seconds, our autosave should kick in, and the data should be saved to a file, and a temporary file, and that's the only way this can ever be recovered if it is saved to disk. As I mentioned, it can only be recovered whatever content was saved the last time the autosave executed. So, you know, if you set it too long, every half an hour, you're not going to be able to, you're going to still lose data if the user is entering data. So, okay, well, it's been 15 seconds, and I'm going to click the crash now, and let's see what happens. So, restart manager stopped working. We're going to restart the program. It's restarting, and we get this message saying, giving us the option to recover the autosave documents, and I'm going to click that, and we see that it comes up with the data that we were working on yet was never saved. So not always something you need, but if you do need it, it's going to be pretty handy. So for some applications, it may not make sense to use the Restart Manager. For example, if an application does not edit documents, or if they are saved dynamically as changes are made, or if your documents do not fit within the document view architecture. However, if your app does fit within the document view architecture, your application can now implement document recovery with very little effort on your part. Obviously, your goal is to make your app so that it is unlikely to crash, but accidents happen, and if they do, your users may be very happy if they don't have to lose their work.